Past 7, you're watching Sunrise here on Sky News. Now, today is International Epilepsy Day. It might be a condition most of us have heard of, but perhaps also one that few of us actually really understand. 600,000 people in the UK have been diagnosed. 65 million people worldwide live with a condition. But 1/3 of those in the UK do not respond to current treatments that are available. But it's hoped that the latest genetic research might be able to help them. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now by Torie Robinson. She is founder of the website Epilepsy Sparks, a platform for people with a condition to share their stories. And good morning to you, Torie.
Good morning.
This is very interesting. That statistic there, 65 million people worldwide live with epilepsy. And it's perhaps something that everyone's heard of, but few people understand because it can affect everybody in a different way.
Indeed, it affects people of all nationalities, people from all ethnic backgrounds, whether you're rich, you're poor, and anybody. So approximately 1% of the population are affected by it, at least in this country. And it's one of those invisible disabilities most of the time. And there are over 40 different types of seizure. So I could literally be having one right now, and you probably wouldn't notice if I was talking to you in this way.
Really? That's interesting, isn't it? Because when you think of people with epilepsy, you think of them having a fit, but it can manifest itself in different ways.
Indeed. Well, in fact, the sort of current word which we do use instead of fit is actually seizure. But yeah, indeed, it's really common, in fact, for patients to have more than one different type of seizure. So, for instance, I would have a focal seizure originating in one part of my brain, which could then go on to take over the rest of my brain, which would become a tonic-clonic. And that's what most people think of where you're shaking around a lot.
Yeah. It's interesting because you don't talk about a cure, but you do talk about different treatments. And as you said, so many people have different kinds of seizures. It might not manifest itself in the way that people traditionally think of epilepsy. What kind of treatments are available? Because you're working with a lot of professionals that are looking at genetic testing. How can that help?
Well, genetic testing is so interesting. At the moment, the statistics are that about 3% of people have genetic epilepsy. But with research from companies like Epilepsy Research UK, for instance, they're finding out more and more data which is being analysed to try and find out actually is there another genetic component for that we haven't yet identified in many other patients, which is quite likely.
And how can that help you, for example?
Oh, well, myself, I have intractable epilepsy, which means that it's not controlled. I am on a couple of different types of anticonvulsants, and I've also had brain surgery, but I do still sometimes have seizures. I don't expect for my own epilepsy to be fully controlled, but just knowing, for instance, that there is a reason for it, that would be immense, and I know that is for many, many other people.
What are the common misconceptions about epilepsy? I mean, here on Sky News, whenever we show a report with flashing images, we say that before we show the report in case, there are people watching at home that are affected by flashing lights. But actually, it's a very tiny proportion of those with epilepsy that, that's a trigger for them.
Yeah, 3% of people. That's the official number, which is really not that many. But having said that, those people that are affected by flashing lights or even changes in light, which could be, say, going past some trees in a car and the light flashes, the sunlight, that can affect them too. But I've never, for instance, been affected by flashing lights.
Yeah. What are some of the other misconceptions?
It would be that everybody shakes around all the time. That doesn't always happen. It would be that everybody wets themselves. It would be that everybody has intellectual difficulty, whereas many people do, but many people also don't. And some people even sort of think that it's just people in poverty who have it, but you can have the richest person. Yeah, I know. These misconceptions are so utterly ridiculous. They're laughable. Indeed. So many different misconceptions.
And obviously, people who don't know anybody who has epilepsy, if they do encounter somebody who is having difficulty, what should they do? Because, of course, again, you think about people having seizures and people then worry what to do. But as you said, there are so many different kinds of effects of epilepsy. What's the best way for people to understand and help?
Well, if it's prior to them having a seizure, I would ask questions. although we do have a bit of an obstacle because lots of people don't want to talk about their epilepsy because of misconceptions and stigma. However, if you come across a person who is open about it, then ask them all the questions in the world, I would. I don't mind anybody asking me any questions at all. There's no such thing as a bad question. And if you want to know first aid, well, go to Epilepsy Action. They are amazing for that. But it's pretty much put somebody into the recovery position, make sure they don't bash themselves. And if you know they already have epilepsy, don't call a paramedic. This is generally speaking, unless their seizure's gone on for longer than 5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Torie, that's really useful, and you've debunked some myths there, and it's been really interesting to talk to you. Torie Robinson, there, founder of Epilepsy Sparks, a website which shares blogs from people around the world who are living with epilepsy. Lots of useful information on there. Torie, thank you so much for coming in and answering our questions this morning.
Cheers.
Thank you. Right, we're going to take a look at the sport now. Jackie's